Hi everybody, my name is Lily and welcome to today's video. It is time. I have waited and waited and waited and I'm finally making the video today about why Attack on Titan is the best anime of all time. I love Attack on Titan so much, guys. This is the wrong hand. I wasn't doing it, but I love Attack on Titan. I have watched plenty of animes and not a single one has ever been able to live up to Attack on Titan. And I want to talk about that today. Attack on Titan kind of changed my life. That's such an over-exaggeration, but I'm gonna say it anyway, just because of how much I love this anime. It truly has one of the best stories I think I've ever seen in media in general, and everybody should watch it. And of course, I am going to spoil the hell out of it. I'm not afraid of spoiling it right now. So if you don't want any spoilers for Attack on Titan, please don't watch this video because I'm going to talk about every spoiler known to man. But I have 5 points I want to talk about, and let's just get into it because I like yapping. And if you like me yapping, please subscribe because it would be great. Thank you so much, but you don't have to, it's okay. Let's start with the twists. Oh my god, the twist. I did not know media could have such amazing twists until I watched Attack on Titan. I think a lot of people will always try, they'll watch something, they'll be able to guess all the twists, it'll make it kind of less fun. First of all, I think you shouldn't even try to guess twists when you're watching something. I think it just automatically makes it less fun when you try and guess it, because you're kind of setting yourself up for failure in that way. That's not here or there. With Attack on Titan, I couldn't. I was able to guess some of the twists. My favorite twist I actually managed to guess correctly was on the attack on the outside of the walls with like the Car Titan, Beast Titan, and Reiner and Bertholdt, like all 4 of them, and I actually guessed perfectly that the Beast Titan would throw Bertholdt over the wall in a barrel. I guessed it so perfectly, and Upgrade TV, aka my partner, aka my boyfriend, was right next to me because we watched the whole thing together and we wanted to see my reaction, and he was so shocked that I guessed it so perfectly. I was amazed by myself too. But besides that, there were so many amazing twists that weren't just twists for twist's sake, but actually made sense. Like the Reiner and Bertholdt twist. I mean, guys, it made sense. It made so much sense in hindsight. Everything made so much sense. Every single twist made sense. There was never a twist that came up where it kind of just felt like they were doing it just like because for shock value. Everything felt so purposeful. I think that's the thing that most people love about Attack on Titan. Everything is so purposeful. There's never something that really felt like it was kind of just thrown in there. Everything feels like it had a reason to exist. And giving everything a reason to exist, it just made the viewing experience so much better. My favorite twist, though, oh god, it's such a hard one to actually decide. You know what? Zeke and Eren being related, that's probably my favorite twist. It was so good and it made sense and why they're so close. Best twist. Some of the best twists in all anime that actually make sense and are not just there for shock value. Next up is the characters. If an anime doesn't have good characters, I don't watch it. I can't deal with boring characters. It's the bread and butter of an anime. You need to have interesting characters, okay? I'm not there to watch a plank of wood, no matter how beautiful your backgrounds are. If you have boring characters, I'm not gonna watch it. My god, I've tried watching some animes, but the characters were just so boring, I just could not get into it. It was just like, oh god, why? Why am I watching this? I can't think if I can think of a good example of pissing people off. But I can't right now, honestly. But if I do think of one, I will let you guys know. Right now I can't think of one, but there's definitely been at least one anime. Oh, High School DxD. I found it so boring. I could not get into it. I thought it was so boring, and I just could not watch it. I thought the characters were boring. They were meant to be fun characters, but I personally just found them, I just kind of like, it was yawning. It was yawning worthy. But Attack on Titan, where do I even begin? Like, let's just start with Eren, I guess. The main character. That's probably the best twist in all of anime, is him actually being the villain the entire time. And it was time stuff happening, and it was, oh my god. But Eren, I mean, his character motive seems so clear at first. He wants to kill all the Titans. And then he does that, and it's just like, where do we go from here? We now know there's a whole other world out there. I feel like this ocean scene was so perfect because it really did just reveal so much more, and it went to the final seasons so perfectly. With the Marley arc and us realizing there was more than what we thought, and now he needs a new motivation. And then his new motivation became murder all of humanity, and I was like, oh no, what? How did we get here? But it makes sense. At the core of his character has always been this yearning for freedom. He desires freedom in its entirety. And that includes not just freedom for him, but for his friends. And if that means destroying all of humanity to get it, he's gonna get that damn humanity. He's gonna murder them all, he's gonna get freedom for only some people. I believe in the anime he wipes out 80% of humanity by the end of it, and that's... And most of the survivors are on parody. But I also love the duality of his yearning for freedom, because he never gets freedom in the end. Everything was going to happen no matter how much he tried. Being the Attack Titan, he was able to see into the future, and that's why he laughs during Sasha's death. Is because he can now fully see that he will never be able to have that freedom. That everything was laid out before him and has been for who knows how long, and he was destined for this path, and there's no way he can attain that freedom. But he at the very least can try and get freedom for his friends. Of course, we know from the ending of the show that everything repeats itself in the end. But he tried. And that constant battle for your own free will is such an incredibly human story. And I honestly gotta think the ending makes sense. History has a tendency to repeat itself. No matter how much we try to avoid it, history repeats itself. And showing that at the ending, the fact that it didn't just end with a happy ending. It didn't just end with this potential, the world is probably gonna get better. It ended with our lives' characters moved on, they lived their lives, they died, humanity rebuilt itself, and then it destroyed itself again all over. We cannot escape that freedom. We cannot escape the fate that was brought upon us when it comes to history. History will always repeat itself, and we are bound to that, basically for all of eternity. That constant fight for freedom is within every human. And I think exploring that with Attack on Titan was one of the best ways to do it, especially with Eren. He's the backbone of the show and has some amazing character growth, even if the character growth goes in the opposite direction you want it to. Another character I particularly love a lot is Historia. I love her. I Krista, otherwise known as Krista Lenz or Historia Rice, depending on what you call her. I love her. I don't like what they did with her at the ending, where she kind of just became a character that didn't really exist anymore. Once she became a queen, she kind of just became the woman for woman's sake, the queen for queen's sake, and that was kind of sad. But before that, though, seeing her come into her own and realize her life has meaning, it was great. I have a poster about that right here. It's about, I believe this poster is from the Arc. Can't really see it. I'm not going to turn my camera either. But they all have the different guns, and I'm pretty sure it's meant to be from the Arc, specifically where they're fighting against the Capitol. That's why he starts like in the background, like protecting her. That's also why there's none of the Marleyans there. Like right now, Bertolt is after all that stuff happens. Like with the Kenny, and I love Kenny. I think he's a great character. I also love how his name is Kenny. It's the most American name possible they gave him. You know, we have Eren, Mikasa, Armin, Kenny. Where did that one even come from? To be fair, I do love Attack on Titan for their names. It's not like a traditional anime where it's all the most like Japanese names known to man. It's a little bit more variety. And I can't really think of a good reason why they do it or why I like it so much. But like Bertolt's such a great name, honestly. And I'm sorry, but I don't know where that name originates from. It sounds German, I'll be honest. I might be wrong, or at least that area of the world. But I do like how they have different names, like Krista. I just like the variety of names. They have all walks of life of names. I think the variety is really nice. The show's also very morally gray. That's my next point. The show is incredibly morally gray, and you're not really supposed to know whether or not Eren's a villain. Personally, I think Eren's a villain, and I love it. I think him turning to villainous because of the fate he cannot fight against is incredible. He's both a villain for fighting fate and also for going with fate at the exact same time. But once again, he really is just morally gray, because once again, if it's all fated to happen, is it really his fault, sort of thing? And in general, there's just a lot of just morally gray things. Some things were pretty obvious, like people being enslaved was a no-go, guys. That's so morally wrong. But Eren as a character is so just incredibly morally gray. There are so many different aspects you can take it, and it's good. Or the first king declaring that if the people were to come for parody, he would use the rumbling, but that was actually a lie. He had no intentions of ever using the rumbling or even helping his people. He was planning on just letting them die because he felt that. Or the euthanization plan from Zeke. Like, those are kind of morally great. Obviously, it's wrong to want to euthanize people or sterilize people. Euthanize was... Them calling it the euthanization plan was so dumb in my opinion, because euthanization implies murdering, and when it's sterilizing, they want to do it. Sterilize everyone so they can't have kids. But it's okay, I'm sure it was just like a translation error. But either way, though, that's kind of a morally great plan. I mean, these people have both been oppressors and oppressed, even that's, you know, it's like not technically true. The king kind of forced it on the original king. But either way, though, trying to give these people a mercy death, because the entire world wants people dead. They want them dead. Giving them this option to where hopefully the idea is they won't be able to have kids anymore. The world will stop even trying because the race will be wiped out, and they'll just let them live their last lives peacefully. Like, it's a mercy death. Of course, realistically, it probably would not go that way. Sadly, people are not that kind. Especially in the show, they're incredibly racist in every way. But Zeke's plan was not entirely bad or good. It was in the middle. And stuff like that I think is incredibly interesting. So it really makes you think about ethics in general. Like, would it have been wrong to sterilize this race of people? Of course, obviously, every person should have a right to have a family. And the right to continue living and have their generations live on. But at the same time, though, these people would also never know a moment of peace. You know, it's kind of like in the zombie apocalypse, would you shoot someone before they turn kind of thing? Like, is a mercy death better than whatever fate would lie for them if they continued on as they were? It's that sort of thing. World building. I love the world building in every way. I love how it slowly expands. It kind of like the walls. Kind of like an onion. I'm thinking of Shrek memes now. But it slowly builds on itself. We start off with such a simple concept. They think they're the last people of humanity. They're fighting against these titans. They don't even know that there's an ocean, because that's how long they've been trapped within these walls and they can't go anywhere. And slowly but surely we learn more and more about the world with the characters. They know just about as much as we do at the beginning. But we slowly learn more and more and realize there is a whole humanity. This is not a dystopian apocalypse we're dealing with. This is racism and genocide we're dealing with. This is people oppressing other people because of history. And the way it builds upon itself, we learn about these different aspects of this universe, it works. The first time we get to see the Marleyans in war, we learn pretty quickly what they are. They're a war people. They love war, they're patriots, and they use the Titans. Despite the fact that, I would say at this point, any Eldians have made up for any past genocide that was once again ordered by the original king, who was not an Eldian. But that's neither here nor there. They've made up to this point, but yet still they're being treated like they're devils simply because of their ancestors. And because of that, they should be punished. And they use that to their advantage. And let's be real, I feel like at this point, half of them don't even really believe they're devils. They're just doing this because it's so much easier to basically have slaves, but not really. And we learn about the Marleyans, we learn about the rest of the world, the other people. We get to learn about, I don't know their names, but like the traveling camp within Marley. They're kind of like a refugee camp. Learning about all the different aspects of people and how, once again, this was not like a dystopian story like we all thought it was. This was not the story of the last of humanity fighting against this horrible something. Could be a disease, could just be a mutation, could just be monsters. No, this is in fact the story of a people being oppressed for hundreds of years. And one person finally comes along who is fated to basically destroy the entire world to try and attain his own freedom, succeeding. He destroys the whole world. And who knows what would have happened if the original king was not a total jerk. And my favorite part of the ending is when the original Ymir looks at all of them. And she starts off as a kid, and then finally she morphs into her adult version, who she was when she died. It's represented that she is no longer a slave to the king or to these people. She no longer has to continuously build and do these things and be the slave that she always was. She's now her own woman, and she's now free to be her own woman, even if she is still dead. But I really love that symbolism of her growing up and finally no longer being trapped into this role that she was given. And the world building for the wall is also great. I love the cult people, the wall people who know about the fact there are titans in the walls, but they keep it hidden because they're aristocrat little dicks. But there's just so much to learn about, and I love it. It's so good. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about, which is the reason I always cite as the #1 reason why I love Attack on Titan so much, it is such a human story. Despite it being in such an unrealistic situation, titans murdering humans, that's unrealistic, guys. Let's be real. It's not ever going to happen in real life, but yet it feels like the most realistic story I've ever witnessed. Because the story really was not about the titans at all. It was always about people. People fighting people, people loving people. Let's be real, Attack on Titan was a love story. It was a story about love. A love for Mikasa, a love for freedom, and the inability to attain those things. It was a story about the duality of humanity in its entirety. And I think it's beautiful. This poster is about all of the most important moments in this man's life, and it really does feature just about everything you can think of as important. And I always find it interesting because obviously the bigger the shard on this poster, the bigger its importance. And I find it interesting what he really considers to be important to him. Obviously, the biggest shard, there's actually 2 shards that are relatively big that you can see. The first one is obviously the first time we get to see the Colossal Titans. It's a really big piece. Him destroying the wall, getting his mother killed. But the other one is the moment with Historia, when he kisses her hand. It just shows her face, but it's meant to be symbolic of that scene. And I find that so interesting, how that's such an important thing. Because obviously that moment itself is not that important. It's what happens when he learns. Because in that moment, all of his memories are unlocked, and he can see that the future is inevitable. In every way. Everything is fated to happen. And it's so big because it really does just show that his fate was always inevitable, and he takes that to heart. At some point, he realizes he cannot fight fate, and so he joins fate and becomes the villain he was always meant to be. And of course, another really huge shard for the first moment. He had Mikasa. He has a little scarf on. That's also adorable, because it really shows off those 3 core facets of himself. The trauma of losing his mother, the reality of what he is and what he will become, and his love for a single girl. And I really do think it was his love for Mikasa that really did just drive him, because even if he cannot fight himself becoming the villain, maybe he can save Mikasa. And that's the one thing he really does want. And of course, also a relatively big shard. Surprisingly, about the same size as the Mikasa one, maybe slightly smaller, which is his mom getting eaten. I find it really funny how that's such a smaller shard on this poster. Not by a lot, but it still is smaller. And I think it's really because once he became the villain, he realized that moment didn't actually matter as much. His mother was always going to die, not because of bad luck, because he was going to make sure that she died. He had to be the one to kill his own mom. He had to be the one to direct the Titan of his dad's first wife away from Berthold and to his mother. He was the one who had to do that. And once he accepted he had done that and did do it, that moment became slightly less important to him. Because he knew he had to do it, and he knew he could no longer fight fate, which is why that fate shard, I think, is the biggest shard. I'm not going to measure right now, but that and the other one are pretty important. I just find it interesting, all the different shards you can look at and try to identify which moments they're talking about. There's also ones like Falco, and there's one just about, I believe, confronting Annie. That's relatively small. There is a big, not big, but it is a slightly bigger piece that involves just Zeke's eye. And I just realized that. One second, I need to look at my poster. Is that what I think it is? That's not his memory. Oh my god. Guys, on this poster, I'm not gonna pan the camera, but there's a shard, a pretty big shard too, of Historia's sister, who he has never met, by the way. That's amazing. The fact that one of his biggest memories on there, it's actually pretty big, isn't even his own, I think says a lot about his character. If you guys have not seen this poster, you should look it up and just look at all the different shards, because I was not even aware of the fact that one of the biggest ones was 100% not his memory. That's either Historia's memory somehow, or his dad's memory. or because the founding titan, you might just have those memories of the past founders. But I don't know. But I think Classroom Leave Today, honestly, I think I've talked about enough about Attack on Titan. Every time I look at this stuff, I learn something new. I love it. If you guys have not watched Attack on Titan, please do it. It is amazing in every way. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please subscribe and like. It would mean a lot to me. Or just, watch another video or two. It would also be kind of nice, but I won't make you. But I will see you guys next time. Bye!